worked for several companies that went public, and since I left, I started Tradespoon over 10 years ago, almost 11 years. July, I think, will be 11 years. 5 years ago, started Yellow Tunnel. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you. Because of you, I'm able to do what I enjoy professionally, building models, building software to help me manage my money, to help you with trade ideas, with management, portfolio, building portfolios, rebalancing portfolios. I've been doing that for over 20 years, mentoring and teaching subscribers how to trade stock and options. So that's my background. Disclosures are very important. Trading stock and options involve risk, and it's not suitable for everyone. If you're new to trading stock and options, I encourage you to visit optionscreen.com, link on your screen, to understand the risk associated with trading stock and options. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not registered with FINRA nor SEC. I'm showing you what I do in my own account, based on my own risk tolerance level for general education information purposes only. All right, trading psychology is important, especially in this market environment, right? It's been a year and a half since the, market starts selling off, kind of this bear market. For the past 8 months out of these, 16 months or 18 months, we've been in a strong kind of a bull market. Right? More major indexes have rebounded more than 20%. So every day there's a discussion about, will we have recession? Will we not have recession? Will interest rates go higher or will they go lower? And every day it changes. So there are a lot of uncertainty in the market. I'm not even talking about geopolitical risks. So the dichotomy of control is very important. This concept of process versus outcome. That number one goal for any trader, if you want to be a disciplined trader, confident trader, is to have a trading plan that you can execute. You treat your trading as a business, and you're concentrating on the process. What does the process means to me? The most important is figuring out position size, right? Number of position size, that you always risk the same percentage of your portfolio. It's not the same number of shares. It's not the same, stock price. It's not even the same how much money you invest in each position. It's what is the risk in terms of percentage of your portfolio. If you can consistently trade where you're not risking more than 2.5% of your account value per position, right? We said 1% per trade. Then I would say you would become a disciplined, confident trader, right? It's all about position size and number of positions. Most mistakes that I make, I either have too many positions or I, allow bigger drawdown per position, right? So concentrating on the process, outcome will come. That will be a second nature. And that's probably the most important skill to acquire especially if you're new to trading. And I would concentrate on that first. Because signals, there's a lot of signals. You stock tweets, you turn on CNBC, Bloomberg, Tradespoon, Yellow Tunnel. I mean, you can find millions of signals, but managing your portfolio, managing risk is very difficult, right? And that's a skill that's acquired. How do you determine position size? Positive and negative visualization. Also the most common mistake, especially when you start trading, you usually don't think about negative, right? You only think about positive. Let's say you love AI revolution, it's going to take the world, so you buy NVIDIA, Microsoft, Palantir, AI, and you don't really think about what's the drawdown, right? What if the trade goes against you? So that's a very important part of trading, and I encourage you to always do this. How do we help you with this process? So we do have AI tools, right, based on neural networks. They're learning, they're predicting, just like any other AI tools. Model basically sees the 52-week high, right, 441. You have to go back to, I think, February and April of last year to find these levels, 441. So that's the overhead resistance. Support is August high, right? So if you look at the spiders, model is actually doing a pretty good job. Basically determined that short term, your resistance is 441, 443, right? That's the 52-week high. Let's say 441. Yeah, it's at 440. I'm close now. 442, 443. This is your 52-week high. Again, this is almost April, end of April high. I think we also had this in February. Because we're testing, multi-months overhead resistance, and support is the breakout of August high, which is around 430, 432, 431.73. So I agree with the model. As long as we're trading above 433, bulls are in control, right? And we're building the top, and every time there's a top building process, it can take a few days, it can take a few weeks, sometimes it takes a few months. That means market can continue going higher, right? The next level is, first 451, right? That's this failed rally back in April. Right, so 451 would be overhead resistance, as long as we're trading above August high. If we drop below August high, then we're trading back in the range, right? Between 431, initially would be the year-to-date high around 420. So if let's say you want to continue to buy, right? You're bullish on the market and you want to buy. We had 3 days of pullback, right? We retest in the 436, 434 level. Again, that's the reactionary low to the Fed speech, Powell's speech last week. Where's your stop loss, right? How do you determine that position size? I encourage you to consider the 430, 432 is your stop level, right? That's the August high, right? You have to go back 12 months to find this level. And you know that if we do break 430, most likely we will quickly at least retest 420 level. So that's your stop level. So if you're buying at 436, your stop level, not that far, maybe 1.5%, right? So 430. So you're risking 6 points. Right, if you're thinking about a couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks. If you think about a couple of months, I would use 420 as your bigger stop levels, because we can break 430 today, right? Powell speaks to the House committee. It's a long process, a lot of questions. Sometimes he gets nervous or aggravated, and he can say something. He already said that don't expect the interest rates to pause, right? If you turn on the Twitter, the noise, not the noise, but the theme is that this is only a skip, right? This is not a pause, and we're going to have at least 1 or 2 more rate hikes by the end of the year, right? So, and market probably doesn't factor this in, right? Most bulls at least believe that this is a pause. So if he says this again, in a hawkish tone, the market could quickly pull back below 430, right? So then you would, this is literally hours. The support could be broken in hours, right? And same thing, resistance. He can sound bullish on the economy. He can say housing, record level of housing starts. Everybody's buying new homes. There's no signs of recession. Unemployment is low. He loves the economy. Okay, then the market could, quickly retest 445. So both scenarios are possible. I would consider both scenarios, right? If you're bear, I would consider that we're going to retest or break 445. If you're bull, I would consider that we can get back to the range. So if you don't want to think about hours, you want to think about at least days or weeks, then 420, right? So then 16 points, right? 16 points. All right. So we don't think about points. We think about percentages of account value, right? So if the average account is $10,000, you risk 2.5%. 2.5% is $250, right? So if I'm day trading, right, and I only think about today, then I would say, okay, 40 shares. I can invest 40 shares, right? That would get me to close to $250, right? And again, if you're managing $5,000, then you always risk $125. If you're managing $20,000, okay, you're managing $5,000. Sorry, $500. So 40 shares and 250 divided by 16, roughly 14, right? So that's your position size. Most common mistakes we all do make, including myself, you buy 40 shares, you think that Powell is going to sound optimistic and talk about strong housing sector, strong unemployment, AI, revolution, so you buy, then he says something negative and it goes down and you say, well, maybe 430 will not hold, but 420 will hold for sure. Right, but then when you approach 420 and you have 40 shares instead of 14, all of a sudden you're down not to $150 but $500. That is the most common mistake. We all make it. I would always grade myself C and D. Right, keep yourself accountable, keep yourself self-aware. Right, it's very important to kind of see what's the underlying emotions, feelings you have, and write it down. I mean, we all make mistakes. It's okay to have 1 C or D. Not a big deal, but the goal is not to have C's and D's. The goal is kind of go through this what if scenario. What if it reaches 430? What if it reaches 420? I like to do, emotions like how will I feel if I'm down $500 at 420, right? That's a D. I don't like to get C's and D's. I was raised to only get A's and B's, so I'm like, okay, then I don't need to buy 40 shares. I'm happy with 14 shares. So that's the exercise, very important. A lot of people tell me, Vlad, why are you talking about bad trades? Why do you talk about stop losses? I believe this is innate process. You can't be a successful trader if you don't think about positive scenarios and negative scenarios. Right? I worked at hedge funds. We built software. There's a software that, we had a presentation yesterday, right? We had a presentation yesterday from Tradier, right? What if scenario, right? It's built into any software used by institutional professional traders, right? They have pre-trade checklist. Before you put on a trade, you have to go through a checklist, right? Software was not going to let you buy spiders unless you answer 10 questions, right? And you have to answer them. You have to say, do you have enough cash? Do you have this? Retail investors should do that too. We don't have complicated softwares. We don't need them because I propose to only have 4 positions. We don't need to manage 200 positions. But 4 positions, ask yourself in your journal, why you enter in the trade multiple times, right? Write it down and go through the positive and negative scenario. All right, so that's important. Any questions? Meanwhile, spiders is slightly lower. It's getting oversold, right? Going into Powell's speech. When does it start? All right, 10 a.m. Eastern, that's 9 a.m. Okay, so in half an hour, right? In half an hour, Powell's going to start speaking. The market is probably going to get a little nervous. It always does. For now, we're retesting yesterday's low and Powell's speech on Thursday, right? So if he doesn't say anything new, then 434 will hold, right? In theory, if he says something different or market participants feel a little different, then we might break through the, we might retest this August high, right? 432, 430. This is a buffer zone between last year, August, right? So very important support level, right? Bulls do not want to give this up. So that's the main observation. We do have a very strong rally in Bitcoin, right? On this idea that kind of relentlessly going higher. That the institutions now are getting into the Bitcoin game. I mean, it's been extremely oversold, but it basically retraced all of its gains. And it's a good proxy for risk taking. So it's oversold and basically almost recover all of the losses since April. So Bitcoin is strong. Regionals are weaker, right? We do have second week kind of making lower highs, lower lows. I would pay attention, right? We have this wave A, pretty strong rebound. I mean, A, B, C. I don't know, maybe D, but kind of this double top, and then we're starting to accelerate into the downside. I would keep an eye on that. Let's see what else is interesting. China, right? One of the worst days. Yesterday was one of the biggest pullback in a long time. Silver continues to drop, retesting May lows. Small caps down, technology is down. So kind of across all asset classes down. TLT has pulled back, so you know that this is just a people are preparing for the Powell speech. 10 years not going anywhere, right? For the past few weeks. So that means equity market is probably going to stay range bound, right? If 10-year jumps to 4% on Powell's speech, okay, then the rally continues. If it breaks, if it retests the lows, right, 3.5, I think that's the line in the sun. If it pulls back to 3.5, then pullback will accelerate. Dollar continues to find footing, right? It pulled back significantly in the past 3 weeks, and now it's trying to stage a rebound. VIX, very complacent, right? 13, no panic in the market. We did have earnings, right? FedEx, actually turning flat. So if you did the FedEx trade, I discussed it at length yesterday at the closing bell. If you did the calls and you did the puts, obviously it was down, I think, as much as 8%. The initial reaction was down 8%, right? But then it recovered most of the loss. It's mixed bag, right? They bit some numbers, they guided lower. Again, main message: uncertainty in the market, and that was the main message. I'm gonna close my calls. So iron condor, right? Especially when you have 50% rally into the earnings, you have to deliver a very strong earnings. Nothing can be negative in your earnings call for the momentum to continue. Right, and that's probably the theme for the earnings season, that now people are going to start paying attention. Right, we're heading to the next earnings season. Evaluations are stretched, right? PE ratio stretch. For the rally to continue, you have to have like NVIDIA type of earnings where you double your revenue projections, right? So then it, market will reward you. If you don't double your revenue projection, then it's an issue. Okay, let's see. So any questions about FedEx, right? Selling iron condor, right? So if you think that the market is trading sideways, or if you think stocks as a result of earnings will trade sideways, then the idea is to sell premium, right? To sell premium. All right. Any questions? Good morning, Faust, Bob. Good morning, John, Fred. FedEx, good trade. Thank you, Fred. Bill, thank you. His speech has already been released. It reaffirms that Fed is unhappy with inflation and will be likely raising rates a couple more times. Thank you, Mark. According to CNBC, they might have got a leaked copy. Oh, so they already, okay. But I mean, I assume that's meeting minutes probably from last week has been released. But, you know, he's still going to speak to the House panel, going to get grilled by the senators and by representatives in the next, 2 days. So I would expect more volatility in the market. Okay. Let's go over the numbers. Yeah, silver continues to pull back, breaking through 21 level. Okay, we'll look at that. Okay, so let's review the positions and see if we want to make any adjustments. All right, first Costco. I mean, again, I think market, doesn't roll over in 1 day or 2 days. So I still think there could be more momentum to the upside, or at least sideways. So Costco, I mean, it's flat. It's not going anywhere this week. There's a lot of overhead. It did break through the downtrend, right? Usually considered to be a bullish pattern. Model picked the stock as should outperform the market. I mean, we could get it to 540 level. For now, as long as it's not making new lows, right, around 511 or even 500, I'm not worried. So for now, I'm just holding Costco. Small cap stocks, you can definitely see that momentum is deteriorating behind most of the stocks, including the value stocks. So small caps are slowly rolling over, right? And they're testing the downtrend. We broke through the downtrend for a couple of weeks, and now we're retesting it again. So we are above 200-day moving average, above 50-day moving average. We're retesting this downtrend line. So for that reason, I hedged. So now I have bullish spread, right? Think of it as a stock, and think of it as a cover call, right? It's a call condor, right? It's not an iron condor, it's a call condor. Where I'm bullish and bearish at the same time, where I think it will trade in the range 180 to 200, right? It has to stay above 180, right? That's a strong support, and below 200, right? So as long as it trades in sideways for the next few weeks, then this is the approach. And right now I would be market neutral, all right? I think we're going through the top. We can go a little bit higher, we can go a little bit lower, but probably until next earnings season starts or gets underway, then probably we're range bound. NOC, trying to close it, this position. I held it for too long. Got to 460 level. The overhead resistance is around 470, 480. So maybe there's one more leg up. Looks like it's outperforming the market, at least today. So no changes in NOC. QQQ, I'm bearish in July and September. July's concerning, right? This pullback has to accelerate for this trade to be successful. For now, it's not, right? QQQ is just kind of a healthy small pullback. So I'm waiting. We'll see what the reaction to the Fed speech, Powell speech. Transocean. So I have a stock and I sold calls against it. I added actually, I think yesterday, right? I added yesterday during closing bell. Clearly defined support, right, around 550, short-term 570. So 550, 570 is your strong support. I would encourage you to, again, if we do reach this level again, not to lose more than 2.5%, or it should be less than 2.5%. And again, I think oil is oversold. Looks like it's stabilizing. It could have another rally, right? It's trading in this range between 114 and 135 since March. So that's Transocean. I do encourage you to hedge out of the, I think if you, especially if you're new to trading or you just start trading or you're not very disciplined, confident trader, just have 4 positions. Out of these 4 positions, I would say 2 should be bearish, right? If you're not comfortable trading QQQ, I propose either buy SH as a hedge. I have a SH position I've been accumulating. You can buy silver. I think silver is pulling back, right, together with gold. It's trading like a precious metal, so you can see it broke through the support, right, pulling back. But I still think, I mean, obviously it could get to 200-day moving average, but I'm bullish on gold and silver because I'm bearish on the market, right? And if the pullback accelerates, and gold and silver already hit 52-week high, I think it's just a matter of time to retrace and, trade higher. So silver is another way to hedge. Meanwhile, I do have a put, so that's good to hedge my position. So, and again, merit put, right? Cover calls, options. The best part about options is that if you're trading stock, you can always hedge it, right? I didn't expect that significant pullback in gold and silver. So, but because I have put, then, at this point, my losses are limited, right, to the 21 level. Or TLT, right? Buying TLT. Again, TLT has been trading in the range. It's all about 30-year yield. It has pulled back significantly, right? Retested the key support, right? 380. It's bouncing back today, but still, I think it's just a matter of time to break through 380, right? Whether it happens this week, next week, I think it will happen, and TLT should continue to rebound, right? It's also facing the key support, overhead resistance around 103.5. I think it's just a matter of time to break through it, and you have a clearly defined support at 100. That's TLT. And I'm still bearish on banks, right? They're very sensitive to interest rates, whether it's KRE, kind of rolling over, right? Sitting at this key support level around 42.41, right? But that's where it's spent basically since initial pullback back in March on collapse of SVB Bank, right? So it's got a line in the sand again. I would watch that level in KRE and bearish XLF. Similar pattern, sitting in the key support around 33 level. All right, any questions about positions? Mark, I see bell curve forming on Spider's bell curve. Bell curve. Like when you say bell curve, is it this? Like bell curve distribution form? But let's look at Spiders, 15 minutes. Bell-shaped distribution curve. I mean, whether it's a bell curve, I'm not familiar with a bell curve pattern. I don't use this term, bell curve chart pattern. Okay, I mean, to me, bell curve distribution is something like this. But that's usually not considered to be talks about probability. This is in reference to probabilities, not price pattern, chart pattern. But the pattern looks, I don't know, you want to call it head and shoulders, right? Some people refer it. You can clearly see that there's some kind of, neckline, right? And you have head and shoulders, right? So that's kind of the common term, right? So you know that you want to wait for volume and continuation. But if you see volume and continuation, then 70% of the time, the price will continue going lower. 30% will be a false breakout. So if you're day trading and you're looking at the 15-minute chart, I mean, it's a good support level, right? It hasn't been broken, right? It hasn't been broken for the past 2 weeks. So one can say, okay, listen, market is oversold. Powell is not going to say anything new. I have a clearly defined stop levels. I'm selling spider splits, right? Like put a small spider split position, right? If you're not, and then if you do see kind of strong move to the upside, right? Powell is going to start speaking in the next 10 minutes, right? So if you do see, a breakdown, then you want to close that short put, right? Or if you're long stock, close, right? We're talking about day trading. This is where risk versus reward makes sense, right? If you're a bull on the market, and especially if you're day trading, you say, okay, it can get to 444, it can jump, 9 points, right? And if it drops by 1%, I'm out, right? But I can recover 2%, right? So that could be a bullish setup. I don't know if you have any questions. All right. Okay, head and shoulders. Okay, so yeah, so you definitely see that this is usually a setup where the market is nervous, right? Market is nervous about this. So I would kind of review your portfolio, especially if you have short-term positions, because that could spark volatility, right, in the market. For now, interest rates are bouncing, right? So there is a bullish undertone, basically with the idea that the Fed is going to continue raising rates. So far, the correlation, high interest rate mean, QQQ should go up, right? Right now, TLT, people are selling treasuries and they're selling QQQ. Since March, that has not been the pattern. That means certain uncertainty in the bond market acts different from the equity market, right? There is a disconnect. But at some point, that, if equity if yield continues to rise, then QQQ will reverse and start rallying, right? This divergence is not going to last too long. But, it could be a few days, right? Because we have today, tomorrow, Powell speak. We have leading indicators tomorrow, which also creates market could react to that because it's a forward-looking economic indicators. And Friday we have Bullard and PMI data, services manufacturing PMI data. So there's more data points to digest. But for now, I would, kind of review your positions with the expectation that we might have a large move, whether it's yield, right, or equity. And pretty strong bounce from the support line. And 10-year yield and overhead resistance is around 384. Right. So as Powell's going to start speaking, we can get back to 3.7. We can retest 3.8. So it's going to get volatile. That GPTC, I mean, it's relentlessly going higher. It is a proxy for risk taking. I'm still, yesterday everybody was saying, bears, right? There are bears that are converting, kind of capitulating and moving to the bull market because of fear of missing out, and there are bears that are kind of just stubborn like Vlad and just won't capitulate. I mean, you have to respect the tape, right? Tape does show you a bullish pattern, but I still think it's way overdone. Valuations are back to the 21 level. Interest rates are at 5%. This is not the environment where you're taking risk, right? And Bitcoin is risk taking. So it is rallying, right? 6%, but maybe at least wait till a break above that level, right? So if you want to go bullish on GPTC or Bitcoin, wait for a breakout on above average volume, right? Above average volume. And at least you're going to have a stop loss, right? So if we have next week, 2 more weeks, higher highs, higher lows, okay, then you know that your 18 is a stop support, right? And then you can see if you can squeeze it to 32, right? Like if I was the bull, that would be my thought process, because right now it's kind of hitting this, it's trying to close the gap, right? Back to a year ago, right? So GPTC hasn't even been at this level since June. It's one of the weakest asset class, right? So there's nothing constructive about this. I mean, obviously, if you think this is the beginning of the bull market, and but even if you think it's the beginning of the bull market, I would still wait to close this gap and continue going higher. Otherwise, I would fade this move. Thank you, Ted. Victor, EV market, kind of same thing as GPTC, right? Whether it's a Bitcoin or whether it's EV market, you have to decide whether this is the beginning of or continuation of the bull market, right? We've been in the bull market for the past 8 months, and will we have a continuation? If we have continuation, then obviously AI stocks, EV stocks, Bitcoin stocks, they're going to march higher, right? I think, Tesla is probably the best proxy for electrical vehicle market. Very strong rally, right? Kind of a vertical move up. They're going to have hard time, they have to deliver earnings, right? In 30 days, they'll deliver earnings. They have to hit a home run, right? And I just don't know how many people are buying, Tesla cars. And, they have a big exposure in China, right? This is one of their primary markets. We know the Chinese consumer is very weak, that the reopening is not going according to plans, right? That's why they're actually lowering interest rates, unlike the rest of the world. China is lowering interest rates, and this is a big market for Tesla. So if Tesla doesn't deliver a home run, right, because their valuations are again, out of this world, right? What's the 80? So you know that you're going to have elevator up, and then usually there is elevator down, right? So personally, I would wait for pullback, right? Personally, I would wait for pullback, and I would get bullish maybe in November, December, right? Usually, you want to get bullish in November, December. In summer, September, October is not the time to be bullish. And that's if you're in the bear camp. If you're in the bull camp, you can just say, yeah. So that's my thoughts. Nikola has been in the news, right? Like, I don't like stocks that have, at least Tesla, they have usually most of it is bad news. I mean, they do have this volume, so I know something happened with them again. I don't follow it very closely. I know NIO, right? I do spend a little bit more time on NIO. Looks like a little bit better, but still, there's no signs of any bull market yet, right? I mean, if you have a long-term perspective, if you buy, let's say, NIO because you believe in Chinese market, electrical cars, I mean, it went from 65 to 10, it's not going down to 0, right? Assuming you believe that it's not going to go bankrupt. Obviously, it's way oversold. So if you have, few years horizon, right? Everybody already projecting that Fed will lower by 100 basis points interest rates starting sometime in 24, 25. So if you're thinking, beyond 24, 25, then I think this is the time to buy probably stock like NIO, right? But if your time horizon, this is just a trade for the next few months or few weeks, I think you want to be patient. All right. Let's see what this Paul starts speaking. All right. Let's see Tesla. Not Tesla. Powell. What is Powell? Yeah, the first news, Market Watch, Tesla may be original meme stocks, but Barclay warns latest surge has been too sharp. So Barclay downgrades Tesla to equal weight. But it does raise, from 220 to 260. And they're adjusting to the current price action. So they basically say that they have reached its fair value. And it is pushing Tesla down 3%. Powell says lowering inflation back to 2% has a long way to go. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. At least for now, there's any other. All right, any other questions? Can I talk about electrical cars? Big volume on Nikola? Yeah, there is a big volume, so know what the news is. I think there was a news, I just can't recall what it is. Let's look. Maybe because of the announcing the job cuts. yesterday. No, but the rally started June 23rd. So June 23rd. Oh, Nico, so it did 4 days in launch of hydrogen fuel cell on schedule. Okay, I mean, obviously, it went from 95 to $1, right? So any positive news but it is a big volume. I agree, volume is big, but so far I don't see, it's a blip on the radar. So I personally wouldn't get too excited about it, at least for now. Big India manufacturing deal, right? So there is a lot of news, moving away from China, to Vietnam or to India. Whether it's Apple or Starbucks. Somebody else announced there was somebody else in the news that they're moving their operations, decoupling from China, moving into India. So that trade is going to stay, and that was one of the reasons that they're saying that Japan. The reason Japanese stocks all of a sudden are, decades high, right? And not decades high, but not even decades high. But okay, but they moved 50% higher, right, this year. It's because people are rotating out of China, right? They're selling their Alibaba and they're buying Nikkei. They were going to be delisted. The stock is now not delisted. Okay, thank you. Deere, right. Definitely big move in Deere and XLI in general, right? So actually Deere is probably less impressive than XLI. Right, XLI is actually retested 52-week high, right? Deere hasn't got to the 52-week high, but XLI in general, like railroad, CSX, let's see, UNP, maybe NSC, Jets, top holding XLI. I got top holdings. XLI. Boeing, GE. Okay, so Boeing and GE. Oh, aerospace and defense. So RTX and Honeywell and UPS. RTX. Right, so RTX is almost a 52-week high. Honeywell. And UPS. Okay, so industrials obviously had a strong rally. GE Caterpillar. Let's see. As GE continues to go high, or GE is one of the strongest industrials name. Yeah, GE is kind of vertical elevator up from 50 to 110 without any stop in between. So looks like Spire. Yeah, so it's still divergence. You see people are selling bonds, but they're also selling spiders and technology. So probably going to continue throughout the speech. So we are retesting the initial reaction to Powell's speech. 434, and again, that's a very important level I would hold. Before you get too bullish or too bearish, you want to answer. We need not answer, but we need data to see on which side of this buffer zone we're going to end up. Right? Market is oversold, obviously, right? So pure from technical perspective, market is oversold and should bounce back. But if Powell says something different or something new, and we do this, right, then that will be bearish, right? And this is your August high. So I think this is very important level from technical point of view. Aside from all the, new headline news, this is important support level. So bulls wanted to market to stay, and bears obviously will try to put it below. But short-term market, has pulled back significantly, right? 2% in the past few months. 2% pullback is considered to be meaningful. All right. Let's see, anything else Paul said that's interesting or new? I think he's not going to say anything new. Okay, let me turn on the TV, see if there's anything new. I don't think he even starts speaking, moments away. So I think people are still waiting. Okay, so people are waiting. I don't think he said anything just yet. Looks like he's just sitting there waiting for the questions. All right, it's 9:12. We have a couple more minutes. Any other questions? Right, I was trying to figure out of XLI, because jets, like airlines, had a very meaningful rebound, right? And they're part of the XLI. All right, so you have pretty sharp rally in airline stocks, right? 52-week high. So I was trying to see which stocks contributing. And XLI, I'm not even seeing top 10. But Boeing is, General Electric is, Lockheed Martin, Deere. These are all industrials. ITB is reaching out. Bob, thank you. Yeah, home builders, I mean, caught a lot of people by surprise, including myself. It's kind of elevator, elevator down, and then now elevator up, right? So it basically went from, 84 to 48, right? It dropped almost 50%, and now recovered all of the losses. And, hindsight kind of makes sense, I guess, but did anyone expect that? Probably not. But again, same thing, it's facing 52-week highs. I wouldn't get too excited about it until it breaks above that level. All right, any other questions on YouTube? So a few announcements, YouTube, right? Thank you for participating. If you haven't clicked on subscribe, please click on subscribe. We do have morning bell and closing bell that we broadcast for free. Doesn't cost you anything. So this is an opportunity to kind of think about new trade ideas, participate in live, and become part of Tradespoon community, right? You don't want to trade on your own. You want to be part of the community. You want to be able to ask questions and kind of get answers. So consider joining YouTube. If you do join, please click on subscribe if you haven't done that. click on likes. Also very important. We had a pretty good presentation. We need to bring our trader Lex back. I think that was a pretty good presentation. Very powerful tool, especially if you're trading options, and especially if you have, your experience and you have a lot of positions, right? This is a great tool, and obviously $10. We talked about I think average. I don't even know if 65 cents is an average. I don't think. Like I know in Schwab it's $1, but let's assume it's 65 cents. You do 25 contracts, right? 25 contracts, and you're spending $10. And 25 contracts, if you do an iron condor, even if it's one lot, right? That's 4 to open, 4 to close. That's 8. So in 3 trades, and you're spending more than $10. And some people trade 3 trades every day. So obviously, it could be a lot of savings, especially if you're relatively active in the market. So Yellow Tunnel LP trade your offer. I know some of you said you're going to join. Love it. If you do join, please let me know about your experience and if you joined. We do have marketing relationship with traders, so I need to know if this is something you guys are interested or not. Other than that, let's see. Paul is moments away. He's still moments away. Breaking news. FTC files lawsuits against Amazon related to prime enrollment practices. Okay. How's the big guys doing? How are the big guys doing? So it looks like, Amazon doesn't look, they're all down almost the same amount, except, nothing. Looks like kind of a classical top building process without any huge pullbacks. Tesla just one day. Microsoft looks like a few days. And Google. So Microsoft is sitting in the key support level. Google is sitting at the key level. Amazon is sitting at the key level, right? The stop building process, necklines. Tesla just kind of one day downgrade. And Apple is also marginal new highs, nothing. Seeing this breakout of all-time high, 183. All right. That's all I have for today. Thank you on YouTube. Thank you on Discord. Please join us on both Discord and YouTube. All right, so I'm gonna disconnect from Discord. Thank you, Discord. All right, let's keep an eye on Powell's speech. Keep an eye on spiders, right? We talked about at length the levels. One day doesn't set the trend. Remember, you need at least a couple days to see if there's any meaningful breakdowns. So I would not spend too much time on initial reaction, right? But looks like looks like bears are retesting 432, 433, right? Level. Okay. Thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Thank you. Faust, thank you.